Why is Brazil suddenly on every traveler's bucket list in 2025? From the dazzling parades of Carnival lighting up TikTok feeds worldwide, to the rise of Amazon ecotourism capturing the hearts of environmental explorers, and a brand new digital nomad visa program drawing in remote workers from the USA, UK, and beyond, Brazil is no longer just a dream vacation. It's becoming one of the world's most talked about destinations. But here's the real question. What makes this giant of South America so irresistible right now? Brazil is a country larger than the continental United States, stretching across more than 3 million square miles. It's a land of contrasts, from futuristic megacities like São Paulo and Brasília to colonial towns frozen in time. From endless coastlines that rival the beaches of California to the Amazon rainforest, often called the lungs of the earth. Few nations in the world pack such diversity into their borders. It's a place where you can sip a strong cafezinho in a bustling city cafe in the morning, trek through rainforest trails by afternoon, and dance night away on the beaches of Rio as fireworks explode overhead. And yet, for all its fame, Christ the Redeemer towering over Rio, samba rhythms echoing across the world, football legends carved into history, Brazil still holds countless stories that remain hidden from the casual tourist. So in this documentary, we'll dive deep into the wonders of Brazil, exploring its history, culture, lifestyle, food, hidden gems, and everything you need to know before your trip. This video is like your free boarding pass to Brazil. All I ask in return is a quick like, a subscribe, and a small comment to keep this journey alive. Are you ready? Then let's step into Brazil, a land of rhythm, nature, and unforgettable surprises. Brazil isn't just another country on the map, it's a continent in itself. Stretching across nearly half of South America, Brazil is the largest nation in Latin America and the fifth largest in the entire world. To put it in perspective, Brazil is bigger than the continental United States and almost 35 times the size of the United Kingdom. Imagine the entire UK fitting inside Brazil more than 30 times over. That's the scale we're talking about. It borders 10 different countries, more than any other nation in South America, from Argentina and Uruguay in the south to Venezuela, Colombia, and Peru in the north. This makes Brazil not only geographically dominant, but also strategically positioned, a bridge that connects almost every corner of the continent. But it's not just size that makes Brazil extraordinary. The country's geography is one of the most unique on Earth. The mighty Amazon rainforest, often called the lungs of the planet, stretches across 9 Brazilian states, producing a fifth of the world's oxygen. The Pantanal wetlands, the largest of their kind, are a paradise for wildlife, home to jaguars, caimans, and hundreds of exotic bird species. Then there's Iguazu Falls, a breathtaking system of nearly 300 waterfalls, so vast that even Niagara Falls seems modest by comparison. And of course, Brazil's coastline, more than 7,000 kilometers long, is lined with beaches that rival the shores of California, Florida, and the Mediterranean combined. From the golden sands of Copacabana to secluded tropical coves, Brazil's Atlantic edge feels endless. Beyond nature, Brazil also holds a strategic global role. It's the economic engine of South America, a founding member of BRICS, and one of the largest food and energy producers in the world. Whether it's coffee beans fueling London mornings, soybeans feeding livestock in the US, or iron ore powering global industries, chances are Brazil has touched your life without you even realizing it. For travelers from the USA or UK, distance might feel daunting, but here's the reality. A direct flight from New York to São Paulo takes around 9 hours, about the same as flying to Europe. From London, it's roughly 11 hours, not much longer than a trip to California. And once you land, you're not just stepping into another country, you're stepping into a whole different world. Brazil's geography is more than land and borders. It's a stage where nature, culture, and power converge. And it's only the beginning of our journey. Long before Brazil became a nation, its vast lands were home to indigenous civilizations. Millions of people lived here for thousands of years, spread across tribes with distinct languages, traditions, and ways of life. They thrived along the Amazon River, fished its waters, and developed sophisticated farming systems in the forests and savannas. To this day, more than 300 indigenous groups preserve that heritage, a living reminder that Brazil's story didn't begin with European arrival. That arrival came in 1500, when Portuguese explorer Pedro Álvares Cabral claimed the land for Portugal. What followed was more than 3 centuries of colonial rule, a period that shaped Brazil in profound, often painful ways. The Portuguese extracted resources like Brazilwood, sugar, and later gold, while millions of enslaved Africans were forcibly brought across the Atlantic to work on plantations. In fact, Brazil received more enslaved Africans than any other country in the world, nearly 5 million people. Their suffering and resilience deeply shaped Brazilian identity, from music and religion to food and language. But Brazil would not remain a colony forever. In 1822, under the leadership of Dom Pedro I, Brazil declared independence, becoming the only South American nation to break free without a bloody revolutionary war. What's unique is that Brazil initially became a monarchy ruled by emperors for nearly 7 decades. It wasn't until 1889 that Brazil transitioned into a republic, beginning the modern chapter of its political story. The 20th century brought dramatic changes. Brazil industrialized, urbanized, and grew into Latin America's largest economy. There were struggles, military dictatorships, inequality, and political turmoil, but also milestones of pride. Think of the economic boom of the 2000s, when Brazil was hailed as one of the rising BRICS powers, or the cultural exports that captivated the world, the rhythms of samba, the beauty of bossa nova, and, of course, football legends like Pelé, Zico, and Ronaldo. Few countries can say they've hosted both the World Cup and the Olympic Games in the 21st century. Brazil did both the 2014 FIFA World Cup and the 2016 Rio Olympics events that placed the nation at the center of global attention, showcasing its beauty, but also sparking conversations about its challenges. Today, Brazil stands as a country of contrasts, ancient traditions intertwined with modern ambitions. Its history is not a straight line, but a mosaic of peoples, struggles, and triumphs that continue to shape the Brazil we see today. To truly understand Brazil, you can't just look at its geography or history, you have to feel its culture and lifestyle. And at the heart of it all is something Brazilians call the jeitinho brasileiro. Roughly translated, it means the Brazilian way. It's not just about problem solving, it's about improvising with creativity, finding solutions when none seem to exist, and approaching life with a mix of resilience, warmth, and charm. Imagine the flexibility of a jazz musician combined with the optimism of someone who refuses to be beaten by circumstance. That's the jeitinho brasileiro. This spirit flows naturally into Brazil's family life. For Brazilians, family is not just a unit, it's the foundation of society. Gatherings often stretch across generations, with grandparents, cousins, and friends blending into one big circle. Meals are long, lively, and full of conversation, a contrast to the fast-paced grab-and-go style in much of the US, or the more reserved dining traditions in the UK. Here, eating together is an event, not an afterthought. And of course, Brazil lives through its music and dance. Samba, born in the Afro-Brazilian communities of Rio, is more than a rhythm, it's the heartbeat of carnival, a pulse that can make even the shyest visitor tap their feet. Then there's bossa nova, smooth and elegant, a sound that carried Brazil onto the world stage in the 1960s, with songs that still drift through cafes from London to New York. In today's streets and nightclubs, you'll hear funk karaoke raw, powerful beats that tell the stories of Brazil's urban youth. Music isn't entertainment here, it's identity. Daily life also reflects Brazil's social values. Hospitality runs deep, visitors are welcomed with warmth, often treated like family, even if you've only just met. Brazilians are known for their openness, their easy smiles, and their ability to make strangers feel like old friends. It's a striking difference from the more individualistic pace of life in cities like New York or London. where time is money and schedules dominate. In Brazil, time bends. Conversations stretch. A 5-minute chat can become an hour-long connection. The rhythm of everyday life is different too. Morning might start with a cafezinho, a tiny but strong coffee shared with colleagues or friends. Work happens, yes, but so do football matches in the street, beach gatherings after hours, and spontaneous celebrations that erupt without planning. Where a Londoner might rush for the tube and a New Yorker might speed walk through Times Square, a Brazilian in Rio might pause on the beach to watch the sunset. Because here, savoring the moment often matters more than racing through it. Brazil's culture is not about perfection or efficiency. It's about passion, connection, and living life with rhythm. And that rhythm is what draws millions of travelers who want not just to see Brazil, but to feel it. Faith in Brazil is not just a private matter. It's something that breathes through daily life, traditions, and celebrations. Brazil is the largest Catholic country in the world, with nearly 2/3 of the population identifying with the Church. You'll see towering cathedrals in every city, from São Paulo's Gothic marvels to the colorful Baroque churches of Salvador. Even the world-famous Christ the Redeemer, standing high above Rio, is not just a landmark, it's a symbol of how deeply Catholicism has shaped Brazil's identity. But what makes Brazil's spiritual landscape unique is not uniformity, but diversity. Alongside Catholicism, Brazil is also home to Afro-Brazilian religions such as Candomblé and Umbanda. These faiths were born during the colonial era, when enslaved Africans carried their beliefs across the Atlantic. To survive under Portuguese rule, they often blended African deities with Catholic saints, a process known as syncretism. Today, ceremonies filled with music, drumming, and dance keep those traditions alive, reminding us how faith became both a refuge and a form of resistance. This blending of cultures doesn't just stop at religion, it echoes in daily life, festivals, even in music and food. Brazil is a living example of how identities can merge without losing their roots. When it comes to language, Portuguese is the official tongue, but not quite the Portuguese you'll hear in Lisbon. Brazilian Portuguese has its own rhythm, softer vowels, and unique expressions shaped by indigenous and African influences. To a British or American traveler, it might feel more musical, more open. Just as American and British English have their quirks, European and Brazilian Portuguese differ in vocabulary and accent. And what about English? In major cities like Rio de Janeiro, São Paulo, or tourist hubs such as Foz do Iguaçu, you'll find guides, hotel staff, and younger generations speaking at least some English. But step into smaller towns or rural regions, and English becomes rare. Travelers are often surprised at how useful it is to learn just a few Portuguese phrases, a simple bom dia, good morning, or obrigado, thank you, can open doors and warm smiles. In Brazil, religion and language aren't just tools of tradition. They are living, breathing forces that reveal how this country blends the old with the new, the global with the local. And for visitors, understanding them is the first step toward truly connecting with Brazil's heart. When people think of Brazil, the first image that often comes to mind is a figure with open arms, standing high above the city of Rio. The Christ the Redeemer statue isn't just Brazil's most recognizable landmark, it's one of the new 7 wonders of the world. Towering 98 feet tall on Corcovado Mountain, this masterpiece of modern engineering watches over Rio de Janeiro like a guardian. Whether shrouded in clouds or glowing in the sunset, it's more than a tourist attraction. It's a symbol of faith, resilience, and the warmth of the Brazilian people. Not far away, another giant rises from the Earth's Sugarloaf Mountain. A granite peak that shoots straight up from the water's edge, it offers one of the most breathtaking views on Earth. Take the cable car to the top, and you'll see Rio unfold in every direction: golden beaches, sprawling favelas, and the Atlantic stretching endlessly into the horizon. It's a view that rivals the skyline of New York or the Thames from the London Eye. Yet it feels more raw, more alive. Traveling south, you'll encounter a wonder of nature so immense it defies description: Iguazu Falls. Imagine not one, but nearly 300 waterfalls, cascading together along the border of Brazil and Argentina. The roar of water is deafening, the mist rising like smoke. Compared to Niagara Falls, Iguazu is wider, taller, and far more powerful. It's a place where nature doesn't whisper, it thunders. And then, there's the beating heart of Brazilian leisure, Copacabana Beach. This 4-kilometer stretch of golden sand isn't just a beach, it's a stage for life itself. From sunrise joggers and football matches to evening parties, it embodies the Brazilian love of celebration. It's as iconic as Miami's South Beach or Brighton Pier, yet unmistakably Brazilian. But Brazil's wonders go far beyond Rio. Journey into the north, and you'll find the Amazon River, the largest river system in the world. Its sheer size is almost unimaginable, carrying more water than the next 7 largest rivers combined. Traveling along its banks feels like stepping back in time, into the heart of a world where nature still rules. In the center of the country lies something entirely different, the city of Brasília, a bold experiment in modern architecture. Built in the 1960s and shaped like an airplane when viewed from above, Brasília is a UNESCO World Heritage Site where futuristic buildings by architect Oscar Niemeyer still look ahead of their time. Walking through its sweeping curves and open plazas feels like stepping into a living museum of design. And then there's Salvador's Pelourinho, another UNESCO treasure, a neighborhood painted in pastel colors, alive with music, dance, and history. Once the capital of colonial Brazil, Salvador's cobbled streets whisper stories of the past, while its plazas pulse with Afro-Brazilian culture. It's here that you feel Brazil's soul most vividly, a fusion of heritage and celebration. From Rio's iconic peaks to the endless Amazon, from futuristic Brasília to historic Salvador, Brazil's landmarks are more than places on a map. They are expressions of a country that is always larger than life. And the deeper you go, the more unforgettable it becomes. Brazil is famous for Rio, Carnival, and the Amazon. But what if I told you that some of its most extraordinary wonders lie hidden, far from the tourist crowds? These are places where nature writes poetry and where history whispers from every cobblestone. Take Lençóis Maranhenses, for example. At first glance, it looks like a desert rolling white sand dunes that stretch for miles. But then the rains come, and something magical happens. Freshwater lagoons form between the dunes, creating thousands of turquoise pools under the blazing sun. Imagine walking through what looks like the Sahara, only to stumble upon a lagoon so clear you can dive right in. It's one of the rarest landscapes on Earth, and many visitors never even hear of it. For hikers and adventure seekers, there's Chapada Diamantina National Park in Bahia. Picture towering cliffs, hidden waterfalls, and caves lit by beams of crystal blue light. Trails here wind past ancient plateaus and valleys that feel untouched by time. Compared to trekking in Scotland's Highlands or the Appalachian Trail in the US, Chapada feels more raw, more secretive, as if nature is keeping treasures just for those willing to explore. Then there's the Pantanal, often overshadowed by the Amazon, yet just as extraordinary. This is the world's largest wetland, a sprawling mosaic of rivers, lagoons, and marshes. It's the best place in South America to spot jaguars, giant otters, and capybaras in the wild. Unlike the dense Amazon, the open landscapes of the Pantanal give you clear views of wildlife, a safari experience that rivals anything in Africa, but with a Brazilian twist. Beyond the wilderness, Brazil's hidden gems also live in its small fishing villages and colonial towns. Places like Paraty, with cobblestone streets frozen in time, or Jericoacoara, a sleepy beach town where donkeys still roam freely and sunsets turn into nightly celebrations. These spots reveal a slower Brazil, a world away from the chaos of São Paulo's traffic or Rio's nightlife. And of course, Brazil's untouched beaches. While Copacabana and Ipanema steal the headlines, thousands of lesser-known stretches of sand line the country's 7,000-kilometer coast. Many remain quiet, undeveloped, and breathtakingly beautiful, the kind of beaches where you feel like you've discovered paradise on your own. These hidden places remind us that Brazil is not just a land of big names and famous sights. It's a land of secrets waiting to be uncovered. And often, the most unforgettable moments are found not where everyone goes, but where few dare to venture. Brazil is often called a land of superlatives, and nowhere is that more true than in its natural beauty. From the dense green lungs of the planet to the thundering roar of waterfalls and the endless stretch of beaches, Brazil's landscapes are as vast as they are unforgettable. Let's start with the Amazon rainforest, perhaps the most famous of them all. Covering an area larger than Western Europe, the Amazon produces nearly a fifth of the world's oxygen. It's home to 1 in every 10 known species on Earth, from pink river dolphins and jaguars to trees that rise like cathedrals. For visitors, stepping into the Amazon is like entering another universe, where the air feels thicker, the sounds louder, and life pulses all around you. Compared to the forests of North America or the Scottish Highlands, the Amazon is not just a forest, it's an empire of nature. But Brazil's natural wonders don't stop there. South of the Amazon lies the Pantanal, the world's largest wetland. Unlike the dense jungle, the Pantanal's open plains make it one of the best places on Earth for wildlife safaris. Here you can spot jaguars prowling the riverbanks, giant otters playing in the water, and the world's largest rodent, the capybara, lounging like it owns the place. For many travelers, it feels like Africa's Serengeti, only drenched in South American spirit. Then there's Brazil's coastline, an astonishing 7,000 kilometers long, stretching from the mouth of the Amazon all the way down to the border with Uruguay. Along this Atlantic edge, you'll find every kind of beach imaginable: wild, windswept shores, calm turquoise lagoons, and golden urban beaches that turn into football fields by sunset. Compared to the beaches of Florida or southern England, Brazil's coast feels more diverse, more untamed, and endlessly alive. And of course, one of Brazil's crown jewels, Iguazu Falls. Imagine standing at the edge of a canyon where nearly 300 waterfalls cascade side by side, creating a roaring curtain of water that seems to go on forever. The spray soaks your skin, the sound shakes your bones. To put it into perspective, Niagara Falls in North America is massive, yes, but Iguazu is taller, wider, and far more dramatic. If Niagara is impressive, Iguazu is overwhelming. From the Amazon's deep green to the Pantanal's golden wetlands, from beaches that stretch further than the eye can see to waterfalls that humble even the biggest in the world. Brazil is not just one destination, it's every kind of natural wonder rolled into one country. To understand Brazil, you can't just visit its landmarks, you have to slip into the rhythm of a single day. What does life here actually feel like? It begins almost always with coffee. Not the grande latte of New York or the flat white of London, but something much smaller and stronger, the cafezinho. Served in tiny cups, it's rich, sweet, and offered everywhere, at home, in offices, even in shops. In Brazil, offering someone a cafezinho isn't just about caffeine, it's an invitation to connect, a ritual of warmth and hospitality. From there, the day diverges depending on where you are. In São Paulo, Brazil's largest city, mornings are a rush. Millions flood into metro stations and highways, battling traffic that rivals and sometimes outpaces Los Angeles or London rush hour. Skyscrapers rise above the haze, and business meetings kick off in modern glass towers. Time feels precious, the pace fast. But travel to a coastal town, and the rhythm changes completely. Here, commutes might mean a walk along sandy streets or a short ride by motorbike. Locals pause to chat with neighbors, fresh fruit markets open up, and work often bends around the pull of the beach. Where a New Yorker checks the subway clock, a Brazilian in Bahia might check the tide. Work and leisure blend differently here too. Football matches are not just events, they're part of life itself. Children play barefoot in alleys, office workers cheer in packed bars, and entire cities pause when the national team plays. It's hard to find a parallel in the UK or USA, maybe the Super Bowl in America or a World Cup final in London, except in Brazil, that passion exists every single week. As the day winds down, Brazil comes alive again. Nightlife is not limited to bars and clubs, though Rio's Lapa district and São Paulo's Vila Madalena buzz until dawn. It's also in open-air squares where people gather to play music, dance samba, or simply talk for hours. Even in smaller towns, festivals, street parties, and neighborhood gatherings light up the evenings. Compared to the structured efficiency of New York or the reserved politeness of London, daily life in Brazil feels more fluid, more spontaneous. Time is less about the clock and more about the moment. It's a culture that values connection, celebration, and the simple joy of being together. A day in Brazil isn't measured in hours or minutes, it's measured in rhythms, in flavors, in shared smiles. And for travelers, slipping into that rhythm is one of the most unforgettable experiences you can have. Brazil is often called the giant of South America, and much of that reputation comes from its economy. It's not only the largest economy in Latin America, but also one of the world's biggest emerging markets, a country whose resources and industries reach far beyond its borders. Let's start with agriculture, the backbone of Brazil's economy. If you've sipped a morning coffee in London or New York, chances are those beans came from Brazil. The country is the largest coffee producer in the world, a title it has held for over 150 years. But it doesn't stop there. Brazil is also the top exporter of soybeans and beef, feeding livestock and people around the globe. Its fertile land and vast farmlands make it an agricultural superpower, often compared to America's Midwest in scale and importance. Then there's industry. Brazil is one of the world's leaders in aviation, thanks to Embraer, the third largest aircraft manufacturer after Boeing and Airbus. Its mining sector is equally massive, producing iron ore, gold, and other minerals that fuel global supply chains. And with enormous reserves of oil and hydropower, Brazil is also an energy powerhouse, keeping industries running both at home and abroad. But beyond farms and factories, Brazil is changing. In São Paulo, the country's financial and economic heart, a new industry is booming: technology. Startups and innovation hubs are multiplying, especially in fintech. Brazil is home to one of the largest digital banking revolutions in the world, with companies like Nubank reshaping how people manage money. For younger generations, São Paulo feels less like an industrial city and more like a Latin American Silicon Valley. And yet, despite this economic muscle, inequality remains one of Brazil's greatest challenges. Gleaming skyscrapers often stand next to sprawling favelas. Billion-dollar corporations operate in the same cities where many families struggle with basic services. Brazil has a growing middle class, but the contrasts are sharp and impossible to ignore. For a visitor from the USA or UK, these contrasts can feel striking. In São Paulo, you might dine at a world-class restaurant one evening, then drive past neighborhoods where daily life looks very different. The gap between rich and poor is visible, but so too is the resilience of the people who find joy, creativity, and hope in the face of challenges. Brazil's economy is powerful, its industries diverse, and its influence global. But behind the statistics lies a deeper truth: the story of a nation still striving to balance its vast wealth of resources with the well-being of all its people. When it comes to cost of living, Brazil is a land of contrasts, just like its culture and economy. For many travelers from the USA or the UK, it feels surprisingly affordable. But the exact experience depends on where you go and how you live. Let's start with the big cities. In São Paulo, the financial hub, costs run higher. A one-bedroom apartment in a central neighborhood can average around $600 to $900 a month, far cheaper than New York or London, but still expensive by Brazilian standards. In Rio de Janeiro, rent is similar, especially near the beaches of Copacabana or Ipanema, where the view comes with a price tag. Move inland to smaller towns, and you'll see a sharp drop sometimes under $300 a month for the same apartment size. Food is one of the greatest pleasures in Brazil, and the good news is, it won't break the bank. A hearty local meal at a neighborhood restaurant might cost just $4 to $6, while dining at a mid-range restaurant for two can come in at around $25 to $30. Street food from coccinhas to tapioca wraps is even cheaper, often under $1. Compare that to London or New York, where even a sandwich can cost $10, and you quickly see why travelers find Brazil's dining scene such a bargain. Transport varies too. In São Paulo or Rio, public metro tickets cost around $1, while cross-country buses remain affordable, connecting even the most remote towns. Taxis and rideshare apps like Uber are widespread, and generally much cheaper than in the US or UK. For example, a 30-minute Uber ride in Rio might cost $6, compared to $30 or more in London. For tourists, daily budgets depend on your style. A backpacker can easily live on $30 to $40 a day, covering hostel stays, street food, and buses. A mid-range traveler might spend $70 to $100 daily, enjoying private rooms, guided tours, and a few nights out. And if you're looking for luxury, 5-star hotels, fine dining, and private excursions can push your budget to $200 or more per day, still far less than a luxury stay in Paris or New York. The local currency is the Brazilian real, or AR, and as of recent years, one US dollar is roughly 5 reais, while one British pound is about 6 reais. Exchange rates do fluctuate, so it's wise to check before traveling. Cards are widely accepted, but cash remains useful in smaller towns and markets. So how does it compare overall? On average, Brazil is 40 to 60% cheaper than the US or UK when it comes to housing, food, and transport. But the wide variation means your experience depends heavily on where you are. A month in São Paulo feels very different from a month in the fishing towns of Bahia. For travelers, this mix is part of the magic. Whether you're on a tight budget or chasing luxury, Brazil offers a way to make it work without sacrificing the richness of the experience. A country as vast as Brazil is defined not only by its natural wonders, but also by the systems that keep daily life moving: schools, hospitals, transport, and the networks that connect people across thousands of miles. Let's begin with education. Brazil has both public and private systems, but the quality between them can be worlds apart. Public schools are free and widespread, yet often underfunded, with crowded classrooms and uneven resources. Private schools, on the other hand, offer higher standards of teaching, modern facilities, and bilingual education, but at a cost many families cannot afford. For international students or expatriates, Brazil's top universities, like the University of São Paulo, are globally respected, ranking among the best in Latin America. Still, compared to the structured systems of the UK or the US, Brazil's education feels like a story of contrasts, opportunity mixed with challenge. Healthcare tells a similar tale. Brazil is one of the few countries in the world with a universal public healthcare system, known as the SUS. In principle, every citizen has access to free medical care, from vaccinations to surgeries. And in many areas, this system saves lives daily. But overcrowding and limited resources can lead to long waits and inconsistent service. This is why many middle and upper-class Brazilians turn to private hospitals, which provide world-class facilities, often rivaling those in London or New York, but at high cost. For travelers, this means insurance is essential, as private care is usually where you'll find the fastest, most reliable service. Then there's infrastructure and transport. Brazil's sheer size makes mobility both essential and challenging. The country has hundreds of airports, with São Paulo and Rio serving as major international hubs. Long-distance buses remain the backbone of domestic travel, connecting cities across thousands of kilometers, affordable, frequent, and surprisingly comfortable. In São Paulo and Rio, metro systems carry millions daily, efficient yet often crowded during rush hour. In smaller towns, however, public transport may be limited, and locals rely on motorbikes, shared taxis, or simply walking. Compared to the UK's integrated rail network or the US's reliance on highways, Brazil's system is patchwork advanced in some areas, basic in others. And what about the modern traveler's most important tool, internet connectivity? For digital nomads, this is where Brazil has made great strides. In cities, broadband and 4G, and increasingly 5G, coverage are strong, with co-working spaces booming in São Paulo, Rio, and Florianopolis. In fact, Brazil has one of the most active online populations in the world. But step into rural Amazon communities, and connections slow or vanish entirely. For those looking to work remotely, it's wise to plan your base in larger cities or coastal hubs. In short, Brazil's education, healthcare, and infrastructure reflect its dual identity, a country of world-class opportunities and frustrating inequalities. For visitors, that means adjusting expectations. You'll find modern airports, excellent hospitals, and high-speed Wi-Fi, but also areas where the systems strain under Brazil's sheer size and complexity. If there's one thing that captures Brazil's diversity in the most delicious way, it's the food. Brazilian cuisine is a blend of indigenous roots, African influences, and Portuguese traditions, a true reflection of the country's history. Let's begin with the dish many call Brazil's national treasure, feijoada. This hearty black bean stew, slow-cooked with pork and beef, is more than just a meal, it's an event. Traditionally served on Wednesdays and Saturdays, feijoada brings families and friends together around the table, often for hours. Compared to a British Sunday roast or an American Thanksgiving dinner, feijoada plays a similar role. Food as a centerpiece of connection. Then there's pão de queijo, the famous cheese bread, crispy on the outside, chewy on the inside, and made with cassava flour. These little golden bites are addictive. You'll find them everywhere, from bakeries to airports, often eaten warm with coffee. It's Brazil's comfort food at its simplest and best. And of course, Brazil is world-renowned for its churrasco, or barbecue. In a churrascaria, skewers of sizzling beef, lamb, chicken, and pork are carved at your table, often until you can't take another bite. For meat lovers from Texas or London, Brazilian churrasco is a pilgrimage, smoky, flavorful, and endless. But some of Brazil's most memorable flavors live on the streets. Coxinha's golden, teardrop-shaped pastries filled with shredded chicken are perfect for snacking on the go. Pastéis, deep-fried pastries stuffed with cheese or beef, are sold hot at street fairs. And tapioca wraps, made from cassava flour, can be stuffed with sweet or savory fillings, making them a versatile favorite. Street food in Brazil isn't just cheap, it's part of daily life, full of flavor and variety. Then come the fruits, Brazil's true hidden gems. The Amazon alone offers flavors you've probably never tasted. Açaí served frozen and sweet, cupuaçu with a tangy twist, or the creamy richness of graviola. Even bananas, papayas, and mangoes taste different. Here sweeter, fresher, more vibrant than their supermarket cousins in the UK or US. And of course, no mention of Brazil's food culture is complete without its two iconic drinks. First, coffee. The country is the world's largest producer, and Brazilians drink it constantly, often in the form of a tiny, powerful cafezinho. It's less about caffeine, more about hospitality, a small cup that carries a big cultural meaning. Then there's the caipirinha, Brazil's national cocktail. Made with cachaça, lime, sugar, and ice, it's refreshing, sweet, and deceptively strong. Sipped on a Rio beach at sunset, it feels like Brazil in a glass bowled, colorful, and unforgettable. In Brazil, food isn't just fuel. It's storytelling, history, and celebration served on a plate. And for travelers, tasting it is one of the surest ways to understand the soul of the country. If Brazil has one universal language, it's celebration. Few countries on Earth know how to throw a party quite like this one. And festivals here aren't just events, they're a way of life. The crown jewel is, of course, Carnival. Known as the world's biggest street party, Carnival turns cities into oceans of color and rhythm. In Rio de Janeiro, entire samba schools spend months preparing costumes, floats, and dances for the famous Sambadrome Parade, where feathers, sequins, and music collide in a spectacle like no other. Millions take to the streets, not only in Rio, but across Brazil, turning neighborhoods into dance floors that last day and night. For visitors, it's an experience that makes even New Year's Eve in Times Square or London's Notting Hill Carnival feel modest in comparison. But Carnival isn't the only festival that defines Brazil. In June, the country celebrates Festa Junina, a harvest festival with roots in Portuguese tradition. Picture colorful flags strung across town squares, bonfires lighting the night sky, and locals dressed in traditional rural costumes dancing quadrilhas, Brazil's take on square dancing. Food stalls serve corn cakes, sweet rice pudding, and hot mulled wine. It's a celebration of Brazil's countryside spirit, and for many, just as beloved as Carnival. Then there's the Parintins Folklore Festival, held deep in the Amazon. It's a dazzling cultural showdown where two teams, Garantido, the Red Bull, and Caprichoso, the Blue Bull, compete through music, dance, and theatrical performances. Imagine Mardi Gras meeting Broadway, but with an Amazonian soul. The festival draws thousands every year and showcases Brazil's indigenous and regional traditions in spectacular fashion. And if you want to experience Brazil at its most magical, spend New Year's Eve on Copacabana Beach in Rio. Millions gather dressed in white, a tradition symbolizing peace, and as midnight strikes, fireworks explode over the Atlantic in one of the most iconic celebrations in the world. People also honor the Afro-Brazilian goddess Yemanja, offering flowers and candles to the sea. It's both spiritual and electrifying, a celebration that fuses old traditions with modern spectacle. And finally, let's not forget that in Brazil, football itself is a festival. Every match feels like a holiday, every goal like a victory parade. Whether it's children kicking balls barefoot in favelas or packed stadiums roaring with chants, football here is more than a sport. It's a cultural heartbeat. When Brazil plays in the World Cup, the entire country slows down, businesses close, and strangers embrace like family. Few nations celebrate a game the way Brazil celebrates football. In Brazil, festivals aren't about escaping life. They are life-vibrant, inclusive, and unstoppable. And for travelers, joining these celebrations is the closest you'll come to feeling Brazil's spirit firsthand. Brazil is a land of joy, rhythm, and unforgettable beauty. But like any major travel destination, it comes with realities every visitor should understand. Being prepared doesn't mean being afraid. It simply means knowing how to navigate the country with confidence. First, let's talk about safety in big cities. In Rio, São Paulo, or Salvador, petty theft can happen just as it does in London's busy tube stations or on the crowded streets of New York. Pickpocketing, phone snatching, and bag theft are the most common risks. The golden rule? Don't flash valuables. Leave expensive jewelry at home, keep your phone tucked away when not in use, and carry only what you need. Most travelers who follow these basics never encounter serious problems. There are also scams to watch out for, especially in tourist-heavy areas. Overpriced taxis, fake tour guides, or helpful strangers at ATMs can catch visitors off guard. Stick to official taxi apps or ride shares, book tours through trusted operators, and use ATMs in secure places like banks or shopping malls. These simple steps go a long way. Beyond safety, there's the question of etiquette, the unwritten rules of Brazilian culture. Brazilians are warm, friendly, and often very physical in their interactions. A handshake is common, but so is a kiss on the cheek among friends. Being open, smiling, and showing interest in people's lives goes a long way. On the flip side, being too rigid, rushed, or distant can come across as cold. In Brazil, relationships matter. Take time to greet people properly, and you'll feel the difference. When visiting favelas or rural communities, respect is key. Favelas, the hillside neighborhoods often portrayed in movies, are vibrant places full of culture and resilience. But they are also communities facing real challenges. If you plan to visit, Go with a trusted guide. Avoid photographing people without permission, and approach with humility, not curiosity alone. In rural areas, traditions are deeply valued, and politeness matters. A simple bom dia, good morning, can turn a stranger into a friend. So how does safety in Brazil compare to places like the US or UK? Think of it this way. In New York, you wouldn't wave your phone around in Times Square at midnight. In London, you wouldn't wander into unfamiliar neighborhoods after dark. Brazil is the same. With awareness, common sense, and respect, millions of tourists enjoy the country every year without trouble. At the end of the day, Brazil rewards those who embrace it carefully but openly. Stay smart, be respectful, and you'll discover that the warmth of the people and the vibrancy of the culture far outweigh the risks. Brazil is a country of dazzling beauty and immense potential, but beneath the postcard images of beaches, football, and carnival lie challenges that shape daily life for millions. The first and perhaps most visible challenge is inequality. Brazil is one of the most unequal societies in the world, where skyscrapers and luxury apartments often stand side by side with sprawling favelas. The wealth gap is stark. While some enjoy lifestyles on par with London or New York elites, many families struggle with limited access to education, healthcare, and stable jobs. This contrast isn't hidden, it's part of the urban landscape, and for visitors, it's impossible not to notice. Then there's the challenge that extends far beyond Brazil's borders: the deforestation of the Amazon rainforest. Often called the lungs of the planet, the Amazon is being cleared at alarming rates for cattle ranching, soy farming, and logging. This not only threatens global climate stability, but also endangers indigenous communities who have called the forest home for centuries. The tension between economic growth and environmental preservation is one of Brazil's defining struggles in the 21st century. Urbanization brings its own pressures. In megacities like São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro, millions face long commutes, housing shortages, and infrastructure that struggles to keep up with population growth. Traffic jams can stretch for miles, and pollution hangs heavy in the air. Yet these same cities are also hubs of creativity and resilience, where art, music, and innovation thrive despite the challenges. And through it all, what stands out most is the resilience of Brazilians. In favelas, communities organize to create their own schools, cultural centers, and safety networks. Environmental activists fight daily to protect the Amazon, often at great personal risk. Families adapt to urban pressures with remarkable flexibility, finding joy in festivals, football, and small daily rituals. The jeitinho brasileiro, that uniquely Brazilian way of finding solutions, becomes a tool for survival as much as celebration. For travelers, understanding these challenges is important. Brazil is not just a paradise of beaches and samba, it's also a nation navigating immense pressures. And yet, it's the spirit of its people, their creativity and determination, that keeps the country moving forward. Brazil's struggles are real, but so is its resilience. And often, it's in these contrasts that you find the true heartbeat of the nation. Whenever Brazil comes up in conversation, certain images spring to mind: samba dancers, football stadiums, and the beaches of Rio. But how much of that picture is reality and how much is stereotype? Let's separate fact from fiction. First, the idea that every Brazilian dances samba or plays football. Samba may be Brazil's most famous rhythm, and football may be a national passion. But not everyone spends their life on the dance floor or the pitch. Brazil is vast and diverse. In the South, gaucho culture revolves more around barbecues and horseback riding. In the Northeast, forró music fills the nights instead of samba. And yes, football is loved everywhere, but not every child dreams of becoming the next Pelé. Another common myth: Brazil is just Rio de Janeiro. While Rio is iconic, Brazil is continent-sized, covering more land than the entire European Union. From the futuristic capital Brasilia, to the Afro-Brazilian heartbeat of Salvador, to the wetlands of the Pantanal and the deserts of Lençóis Maranhenses, the country is far more diverse than a single city. To reduce Brazil to Rio would be like reducing the US to New York or the UK to London. Safety is another area where myths often overshadow reality. It's true that Brazil's big cities face challenges, but so do all global metropolises. The perception that Brazil is universally dangerous is exaggerated. Just as you wouldn't judge all of America by certain neighborhoods in Chicago, or all of Britain by crime reports in London, Brazil, too, has safe, welcoming areas where millions of tourists travel every year without issue. And now, one of the most surprising facts. Brazil is home to the largest Japanese diaspora in the world, outside Japan itself. Over 2 million Brazilians have Japanese ancestry, concentrated in São Paulo and Paraná. Walk through São Paulo's Liberdade district, and you'll find sushi bars, lantern festivals, and cultural fusions unlike anywhere else. This blend of cultures is one of Brazil's hidden strengths, a country shaped not only by Portuguese and African roots, but also by waves of immigrants from Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. So while samba, football, and Rio are part of the story, Brazil is much more than its cliches. It's a country of surprises, one that defies easy labels and rewards those curious enough to look beyond the surface. Traveling across a country as massive as Brazil can feel daunting at first, but with the right tips, it becomes not just manageable, but exciting. Let's start with getting around. Brazil is the size of a continent, so don't expect to cover it all in a single trip. For long distances, say, between São Paulo and Manaus, or Rio and Salvador, domestic flights are the best option. Brazil's airlines are reliable, frequent, and surprisingly affordable if you book in advance. But if you want to see the countryside up close, long-distance buses are a cultural experience in themselves. They're comfortable, safe, and connect even remote towns. Think of them as Brazil's version of Amtrak or the National Express, but stretched across thousands of kilometers. Next, staying connected. SIM cards are easy to buy at airports and shopping malls, with major providers like Vivo, Claro, and TIM offering prepaid packages for travelers. If your phone supports it, eSIMs are even more convenient. You can activate data the moment you land. In big cities, Wi-Fi access is common in hotels, cafes, and co-working spaces, but don't expect seamless coverage in rural or Amazonian areas. For digital nomads, São Paulo, Rio, and Florianopolis are the best bases, with strong internet and growing communities. When it comes to money, the currency is the Brazilian real, dollar. Credit and debit cards are widely accepted in shops, hotels, and restaurants, even for small purchases. ATMs are everywhere, but use those inside banks or shopping centers for safety. Carrying a little cash is still smart, especially in markets or smaller towns, but keep it minimal and use a money belt or safe pocket to avoid petty theft. And finally, a few language hacks. Portuguese is the official language, and while English is spoken in tourist areas, it's far from universal. But here's the good news. Brazilians deeply appreciate any effort to speak their language. Learn a few simple words: bom dia, good morning, por favor, please, obrigado, thank you, and quanto custa? How much does it cost? Even if your accent is off, the effort opens doors instantly. Think of it as the difference between a tourist and a guest. So here's the takeaway. Brazil is vast, but it's navigable. Fly when you need to, bus when you want to soak in the scenery. Stay connected with a local SIM or eSIM. Use cards, but carry some cash. And sprinkle in a few Portuguese words. The smiles you'll get in return are worth more than gold. For some travelers, Brazil isn't just a vacation destination, it's a place to start a new chapter. Whether you're a digital nomad, a retiree, or simply chasing a slower pace of life, moving to Brazil has become an increasingly popular dream. One big reason is Brazil's new digital nomad visa. Launched to attract remote workers, it allows foreigners to live and work in Brazil for up to a year, with extensions possible. For Americans and Brits working online, this opens the door to swapping office views for beachfront cafes, Amazon lodges, or Sao Paulo's buzzing co-working hubs? Where do expats go? The answer depends on lifestyle. Rio de Janeiro is the classic choice, iconic, lively, and packed with culture. It's where you can work by day and samba by night. São Paulo, on the other hand, is Brazil's financial and cultural engine. It's more cosmopolitan, with thriving tech and business networks, ideal for those who want opportunities and nightlife that rivals New York or London. And then there's Florianopolis, often called Floripa, a coastal city famous for beaches, safety, and a growing digital nomad community. For many expats, Floripa strikes the perfect balance between modern infrastructure and laid-back island life. So what are the pros and cons of relocating? The upsides are clear: a lower cost of living compared to the US or UK, incredible natural beauty, warm social culture, and year-round sunshine. But challenges exist too. Bureaucracy can be frustrating, English is not widely spoken outside major cities, and inequality can be difficult for newcomers to witness. Healthcare and infrastructure are good in some areas, but inconsistent in others. It's a country of contrasts, and living here means learning to adapt to them. When it comes to cost comparisons, Brazil can feel like a bargain. Rent in Rio or São Paulo might be half, or even a third, of what you'd pay in London or New York. Dining out is cheaper, transportation more affordable, and even private healthcare costs less than in the US. That said, imported goods and technology can be expensive, and salaries are generally lower for those working locally. For remote workers earning in dollars or pounds, however, the math often works out beautifully. In the end, relocating to Brazil is less about saving money and more about gaining a lifestyle. It's about mornings that begin with a cafezinho, afternoons spent by the sea or in bustling cafes, and evenings alive with music and laughter. For those ready to embrace its rhythm, Brazil offers not just a home, but a whole new way of living. Brazil is a land of contrasts. It's a country where skyscrapers rise beside favelas, where the roar of Iguazu Falls competes with the quiet rhythm of a cafezinho, and where centuries-old traditions live side by side with futuristic cities. It is at once familiar and completely unique. You'll see reflections of London's bustle in São Paulo's endless traffic, or shades of New York's nightlife in Rio's samba-fueled evenings. Yet step into the Amazon, the Pantanal, or a tiny fishing village, and you're reminded that Brazil is also a world apart, a place where nature, culture, and human resilience create something unlike anywhere else on Earth. Too often, Brazil is reduced to stereotypes: football, carnival, and beaches. But as we've seen, it's so much more. It's the warmth of its people, the resilience of communities, the flavors of street food, the power of the Amazon, and the quiet magic of hidden gems most travelers never find. For those who dare to look beyond the postcards, Brazil offers not just a trip, but a transformation. It challenges you to slow down, to savor, to feel, and in doing so, it leaves you changed. So now the question is, which part of Brazil fascinated you most? Was it the thunder of Iguazu, the mystery of the Amazon, the rhythm of samba, or perhaps the simplicity of a cheese bread shared with coffee? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your favorites. And if this journey left you inspired, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more adventures around the world. Because this is only one stop, and there are so many more wonders waiting. Until next time, keep exploring, keep dreaming, and keep discovering.